Hey everyone, I am finally back and ready to catch up on tons of new content for the latest season of The Dragon Prince. For those of you who somehow didn't know yet, we got the newest season, Season 6 stars, and the story is ramping up to a pretty epic finale. I say that, but soon after it was revealed, they have revealed plans for 3 more seasons after Season 7. That and a lot more is something I covered more extensively in live streams right as the news dropped. You're welcome to check that out, but that is not what we are here for today. No, this is the first episode in a mini series where we go over season 6 and review each episode. For some, there will be obviously more to say, and in others, I'll have more of an opportunity to dive into the animation, music, and other aspects of the show. The preface being set, this is the review of episode 1 of season 6. To start each review, I actually wrote down a little paragraph after each episode when I was watching it for the first time, so those will be my original first thoughts. After that, we will dive into the actual episode though, and maybe see if my original thoughts and hopes after the first viewing were correct after having watched the entire season. Now for episode 1. Alright, I literally woke up and had 2 minutes before the season dropped, and wow, this first episode was a complete tonal whiplash. The first scenes were one of the darkest, heaviest scenes so far in all of The Dragon Prince, just for us to go back to the normal tonal feeling in Katolis, but it worked, and I'm thoroughly scared of Claudia now. She doesn't yet seem threatening, but at least so unhinged and damaged beyond repair. I love how quick things are moving along, that goals are clear, and characters are very active. I only hope that continues. The thing I will say for now is that Claudia leaving Terry this early is a surprise. I guess it's in line with the way she had treated him before. But now, back to watching the rest. Episode 1, Startouched, starts us off into the season, and it honestly uses the ending of season 5 very well. Sure, we at the very beginning get the clip that we have already seen on Twitter much earlier, where we see Aravos crying. The location seems to be the Sea of the Cast Out, but also his size in comparison in the background shows us that it's like an alternate plane, the Starry Void. The significance of this is unclear in the beginning, but it's beautiful foreshadowing for the reveal of this being the location where his daughter landed as a fallen star. We find out that Aravos spent 100 years crying over the Sea of the Cast Out, so starting the season off with this clip definitely sets up the audience for the different tone that will come with this season. If that scene wasn't heartbreaking enough, the first actual scene in the season covers the moment where Viren wakes up for the second time after having technically died. It starts all cheery and almost ominous with the context of it being Viren, only to see Claudia at the beach in her dark magic form with the blood of the being creating a massive rune in the sand. This scene was incredibly heart-wrenching. I think it perfectly sets the tone for the rest of the season though. The fact that things are definitely going to be darker, how Viren has seemingly actually changed, and building on that genuine dread that Claudia has while showing just how broken her character is. That is something I think this season did really well, since yes, it is shown in previous seasons as well, and in season 2 she gives the short explanation of how her family fell apart, but getting to see that desperation just so plainly was a great choice to help her feel more human again. Terry is a bit weird in this scene, and he will definitely be something I will be talking about more in the next videos as well, but his character just doesn't seem to really have an arc. He feels a bit weird in this scene, but obviously he has to be there. The problem is just that his character in general just isn't very developed yet, and the way he unconditionally stands by Claudia, while really cute, is a bit out of place. That being said, it is really nice to see, and it does mark a defining point of the character and shows again that his character does boil down to simply wanting to be with Claudia at this point. That sense of unconditional love I think is portrayed very well, but knowing the relationship in general, I think it's more showing how almost idolization of a person can lead to toxic relationships without even realizing it. This entire thing will come up in the next episodes again, but the shift of Claudia then abandoning Terry at the end of the episode was genuinely a great twist to the situation. That way we can understand better how Claudia deals with her trauma and how unhinged she has become, but also shows how much Terry means to her indirectly. I think it would have been more helpful to have very direct scenes where Claudia expresses how much Terry means to her and why, for it to seem like a healthy relationship though. I'm still unsure if the writers want it to come across as a very damaged and toxic relationship, or if they are genuinely trying to get it to be a healthy and normal relationship. I think they explore the reality really well of these things, as they are never just simply good or easy or just bad and toxic. realistic. But as of now, I'd say the relationship is deeply flawed, and just unclear if that is intended or just a symptom of previous writing oversights, namely the Rayla problem. But that's probably enough about Terry and Claudia for this episode. I'm just overall really happy with how they started the continuation of their story, and it felt like a very natural progression of the previous seasons. That brings us to the main part of episode 1 with the gang in Katolis. I'm glad they got straight to the point of establishing the main goal of this season. That is something that I think the previous seasons struggled with, where the overall goal was a bit lacking, and it seemed to be more of an episode to episode thing before finally finding the actual point. That is also something I think the original 3 seasons did really well to their benefit, to quickly establish the overall goal where we can feel like the characters are progressing towards it. We see the main cast discuss different options about what to do with the prison of Aravos before finally not really finding an answer to their problem. Callum then wants to travel to the Star Scraper, and I think it's set up really well straight away, tying the Quasar diamonds in and their relevance, with the fact that we get the dream sequence for Callum and him realizing how he can take the pearl with them to the Star Scraper while also seemingly doing the original plan of protecting it. I think this episode set the bar high with the pacing. It was a really strong start to the season where it didn't feel like they missed a beat, but made sure that every scene was either relevant or moving the plot further in a meaningful capacity. As we'll cover in the following reviews, I sadly don't think they were able to keep that up, but at least this episode as a standalone episode was amazingly paced, written, and had such powerful emotional moments as well. This is exactly what was so amazing about the Dragon Prince, which makes me very hopeful for the direction the show is taking again. And while I don't think they quite hit the mark every episode, episode 1, Startouched, definitely was a great start to a strong contender of a top season. As I said, I would touch on the animation, some choices, and the music, and obviously the animation for this season doesn't really vary between episodes, but the first scene and its uses of the vibrant greens to then be contrasted with the plain sand and the dark colors of Claudia really helped sell the emotion. In Katolis, I wouldn't say there was anything spectacular done with the animation, but overall I'd say that it being smoother is quite the upgrade. There is something I noticed even on my first watch though, where in some lighting, some characters were given strangely large outlines, which made them seem like they didn't belong in the same frame as other characters, but that wasn't much of an issue in the first episode. Finally, we did get to see Rayla with her hair down, and I don't really know how to feel about it, since now we've seen it in the show, but it's never used again. For those of you interested though, yes, I think it looks better down. The scene itself, when Callum then switches the 2 pearls, is great in the sense that it explains very clearly what the plan is and the idea behind it. But at the same time, I think the focus was put a bit too much on the fact that Callum went down to switch it alone. Yes, this does become vitally important later, and this is still a kids show, so these kinds of things do need to be made more clearly, maybe? But still, it's just a bit off-putting rewatching and realizing that if Rayla just went down with him in that moment, none of the later season could have happened. I think they should have just glossed over the fact and not made as big of a deal out of it. The music was also something that didn't really stick out this season, and not in this episode either, negatively or positively. It was okay, and it fit really well to the overall Dragon Prince soundtrack, but I didn't catch myself wanting to listen to any of the soundtrack again, which was the case in some episodes in previous seasons. But again, it didn't stick out negatively either, it just supported the scenes that it was in, and I think that's all it really needs to do. The final choice I will talk about is the inclusion of the scene with Zim and Ezrin. Yes, I understand that they felt the need to also open up that storyline, especially seeing as episode 2 revolves almost entirely around that. However, it was so short and seemed a little bit forced that I think either expanding on the context of the scene, so maybe seeing Zim beforehand and him being all down, or just other additions that would help make the scene feel more connected to the rest of the happenings, would definitely have helped. Extending the scene itself probably wouldn't help the problem too much either. The other choice could be to just leave out the scene entirely and build it up with context clues for episode 2 to be fully focused on that, but I think that would have taken more drastic changes, and it might seem a little bit odd that they wouldn't mention the fact that Zim's mother is gone. That's it for episode 1 though. The review for episode 2 is in the works. Let me know what you think about the season and this episode in particular. Make sure to subscribe to see when the next one will be uploaded, and like the video as well if you enjoyed it, since it really helps me. We'll be continuing our review series, covering any news, streaming, and obviously still coming up with crazy or sometimes even sane theories. We would love to have you on board. You could actually also support my channel financially by becoming a member. You'll get a special role on Discord and get a shout out in the videos and early access access. Don't worry, all the content is and will stay free. This is just if you would like to support me. Speaking of Discord, we have one and would love for you to join. There's an art competition right now and every week as well. You can find me on Twitter where I share my thoughts or can interact with you guys as well. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry again for being late, but we will have fun regardless. Take care. Bye.